Can you guys see the agenda?
Kind of small.
I just pasted in. So
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I keep forgetting about that. That's a smarter play. Thanks for pasting it in there. It makes more sense. Okay, thank you everybody for being here. We're going to get right into it. We have a few people out today, which is fine. That's why we record these things. And I don't think we have any new people today, so we're good to go on introductions. So, Andre and I met last week. Andre, that was Friday, right? That was before the holiday.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And we really wanted to get his visits for the psychosocial groups and the PEC groups on the schedule, so we can, start moving this flyer and marketing and just really getting some feedback from the folks that are directly impacted from this project. So, with that being said, we were able to start at home first, and we're we're doing the first one at Connections, and that is going to be, let me just pull that up. Oh, next week. Okay. So, Andre will go to Connections next week for their psychosocial group. Let us know that Thursday is pretty much ideal, but any, other day, any deviance from that, we can talk about it. And we will get some feedback. Like what we've been talking about for the past few months, get some feedback, what people think, getting in different circles, so on and so forth. There is a few of the groups that we're waiting to hear back from, specifically, Andre, I'm gonna tap you in. Cairo from
Middletown.
Middletown, yes. We sent an email. We were in communication, but we haven't heard back. So I'm just going to call instead of email, just we can get this on the schedule, hopefully for um, October, but definitely before the holiday next month. Danielle, go ahead.
Yeah, Connections is a great place to start, but you are also ACT also oversees the one out in Manchester, so you might be able to get that set up too, as that's also one of the psychosocial support groups through your
Yeah, that's one that he's been working on as well. We have been working on as well.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. No, you're good. They go together. I just in my head, I got Hartford and
Okay.
Manchester,
Okay.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
all good. So we'll get that to schedule, and everybody will know the schedule too, in case you have like some last minute questions. Hey, can you ask them this? We can, all be on the same page. Actually, that brings me to you, Danielle, with the PEC groups. Is there an ideal time for Andre to visit, or is there one coming up? What's going
Yeah.
on with that one?
Yeah, we haven't had it because the meetings are have been canceled, but we have one coming up in November, the first Wednesday, and both Andre and I
Six.
will definitely be there
Perfect.
with the flyer. And then we have a psychosocial support group here, but I have to check with the women to see if they wouldn't mind, or
Oh, yes.
I can actually do it myself since I'm a part of that group
Yeah, whatever you
as
think is
well.
best.
Yeah. So I'll do it when it's do we have it in Spanish?
Um, that's a good question,
Right.
but if we don't, we can absolutely do. That's kind of a given. So I'll connect with Jen to see if we have a Spanish version because we should.
Yeah, because we have a
That's pretty
Spanish
standard.
group
Yeah.
that's majority monolingual
Okay.
women. So it would be good to do the Spanish one as well
Sure.
to that group.
We'll do easy fix. We'll knock that out. Um, let me just come on. Okay. Oh, here it goes. Rich is coming on. Person I was looking for. Hey, Rich.
Good morning.
Morning, morning. Um, Actually, you came on at the perfect time. I was gonna tell everybody how Rich connected us with the Gay and Lesbian Chamber, and I have been in contact with John, their executive director. Is that right, Rich?
Correct.
Okay. Yep. And we are going to connect, but I did have an idea that I wanted to share with the group. So obviously, we're going to be invited to one of the chamber meetings, but do you all think it's a good idea to maybe invite John to one of our meetings so we can kind of give a high level overview of what it is that we're doing before we even go to the meetings? Or do you guys think that one of us should attend the meeting first and then bring that information back to the group?
Hey, Brendan, I'm sorry, I'm playing a little catch up and I
Yeah, yeah, no worries.
apologize. You're talking about the Chamber of Commerce?
No, am I saying it right, Rich?
Yeah, it's a Chamber of Commerce. I forgot the full title of it. It's the Gay Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. That's how I know it. So,
Oh, okay. Well, that they should be an important ally.
For sure.
And
um,
while I'm playing catch up, Brendan, I apologize. I'm
No, you're good.
forgetting what PEC is an acronym for.
Hold on,
Pos-
Daniel. I think I got it. Peer empowerment.
Positive,
No, you're
positive,
close. Okay, okay.
positive
Positive
empowerment
empowerment.
committee.
Okay, I was close. Okay, I'll get it. I'll get
Positive
it.
Empowerment
Committee.
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 Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Brendan, my response to that is I think John has his meetings, I think, once a month.
Okay.
So I think since we meet a little bit more often, it might be a little easier to have him join us on a
I
like a
agree.
Zoom call kind of thing. But maybe the face-to-face meeting could happen at one of his monthly meetings.
Okay.
That way we can be on their agenda.
Great. That's a good idea. So I'll reach out to him and invite him to our next meeting on the 29th, and then I can see about us attending the whatever November meeting that they have. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Now I see John every week on Monday nights. So if there's any quick messages you want me to
Sure.
give, I can always do it that way as well.
Absolutely. We appreciate it. Okay. Okay. Before we move on, are there any additional groups that the group thinks we should visit, or anything I missed? I think I covered them all. Okay, perfect. Okay, next, we just wanted to talk about the referral process template. Erica and Tamara are out, so I'll just show it. This was really quick, small notes on there that we're approved to send it out. Let me just show it on this screen. Okay. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Perfect. Fillable form. To my understanding, this will also be available on the Megan, is it Careware or HMIS? Am I saying that right?
Referrals can be sent through Careware.
Careware.
So for people who don't have access to Careware, like this will be a really great resource. So they can send this referral form directly to Tamara.
Perfect.
And this will be available on the ACT website, this form.
Yes.
Yeah, once it's approved and stuff, yeah, we'll find the appropriate place to put it on our website.
Okay.
Give me 1 second, folks.
Is there a secure, the best facts for Tamara, since there's confidential information on here? Sort of.
Just the usual ACT facts, the one that we use for everything. And if you don't have access to facts, if you email any of us, like me, Erica, Tamara, or anyone in ACT, we can send you an encrypted email, and
Okay.
then it'll stay encrypted when you send things back. So that's also an option.
Because I do have somebody who I'm ready to refer.
Okay. Yeah, you can even though this the form isn't officially approved, I think now it is maybe with the
It
edits.
is now.
You
Yeah.
can still reach out to Tamara to be like, hey, I have someone I'd like to refer. let me know how you want to start the process. Like you can reach out to her now if you want to.
Okay, perfect.
I'm just wondering about sensitivity of
Mhm.
information, like I assume document ready means work authorization. And so I'm just wondering about the sensitivity of sharing information that someone is not work authorized, and may be undocumented.
I mean, it gives a picture of what type of intervention to be prepared to give to the person.
Absolutely helpful from that perspective for sure. I'm just
Yeah.
wondering if there's any, I'm just wondering about caution about the potential of information endangering somebody, being in circulation.
See, to me, I don't read it that way because I'm so used to, like, when we do the matching meetings, like, document ready to me is just, do you have
All
those
their
items
stuff, right?
below?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I have plenty of folks who are, fully legally American, citizens able to work who don't have any of those documents. So
Got
again,
it.
I think it would be if you just mark no, then it would just prompt a conversation, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're illegally here.
Got
To
it.
me,
So
that's how
that's,
I take it.
and
Yeah,
that
and
would make it better not to actually say work authorized, but
Right,
Right, right.
to just
yeah,
say
right.
document ready as relates to the program.
right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I don't have too much experience in careware yet, but I know when I was doing the HMIS, if I would have saw something like this, to me that would just say, oh, they need a W-4, like kind of down that road, to see what resources internally um, that the client potentially needs. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, yeah. And since this is HOPWA, this is like it's derivative of the housing. That's the language that they use.
I see.
Yeah, to
Thank you.
move people through the housing continuum. Because you have to go different routes. Documentation as well as with working. But I'm wondering. So is Tamara, right?
Yep, you had it right.
Ready to navigate people who might not fit the picture of being able to work, because we also navigate clients who what they call are not working on a social security number, but they pay taxes. And so they do get tax credits, which always looks better for them, and people don't really know that. I was, was something that I just learned about a year or so ago. It's just so happened that one of our staff was very much knowledgeable around that and had made sure her clients were paying taxes. So, just to know, what type of services are they going to be able to get, because that's a more savvy type of employment service, so that people who don't have those documents, they do work and they are taxpayers, which people think they're not all the time, but
Right.
that's not necessarily true.
And there are some employment related services that they may not be able to access, and there are some that they may. And it will be beneficial for folks to be aware of everything that they may be able to access, um, prior to being work authorized, um, especially, with the hope that they may become work authorized and have the broader, fuller range of options.
I concur. In a word, yes, she is ready to rock and roll right now. But yeah, all great points. And then yeah, we can get started now.
Yeah, and also with people who are regularly employed through a social security number, they tend to get a little nervous around when the job asks them how to fill out their W-9. They don't know how to fill it out. So
Right.
just to, you know, to make sure that that is included. Because I have people ask me all the time when they finally get a job, how should I fill,
Hmm. Pretty
W
common, yeah.
9 on? I'm like, I'm scared to fill it out for myself.
I
Right.
know,
I
right?
have to
It's
call my sister.
intimidating.
I call my sister Jean. She does our taxes. So I'd be like, Jeannie, am I, you know what I'm saying? So sure those
Daniel,
kind
can
of
you
services are there.
put Jeannie's phone number in chat?
Yeah. So yeah, we'll be fine. We'll make sure everything's real cut and dry. And keep in mind, this is really from the case manager's point of view. They're there with them and all that good stuff. Just happy to announce that, Meg, Erica, Tamara, Angela, have been working behind the scenes, and this is ready to rock and roll now. So I think that's one of our deliverables that we can check off, which is pretty
Yeah,
Can,
cool.
can I
it,
also just
I like it.
underscore what
Perfect.
Danielle pointed out, which is some of the dynamics of supporting people related to employment that are extremely valuable. And another component of what would make an employment initiative helpful is if it really helped people with the nitty gritty stuff that they need to deal with that um, they may not be comfortable or knowledgeable about managing, no matter how skillful or knowledgeable they are about doing the actual job. And that makes Tamara and all of the employment services really important.
I concur. It's my new
But the
word
re
for a while.
the referral form is real clear.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I like to the point. It's a quick referral, so I definitely like the form.
Very cool. Okay. So next on the list, this is more of an announcement. I'm attending Mercy Housing's this is really a job fair, but like job and resource fair. I would call it more a job and resource fair that's happening on the 7th. I believe that is that Thursday. So it's a week after our next meeting. Um, obviously Mercy Housing is a partner of ours. We haven't been able to really connect with them on this meeting, but prior to that 7th of November, I will connect with Rue and get some type of synopsis as to what's going on. So I say that to say this. Um, I'm going to treat it like it's one of our HOPWA events. So anything that we would potentially have on the table, please send to me. We'll get it printed, and I'll put it on our table. That is going to be at my sister's place on Piney Street. For people who are in Hartford, feel free to come by. I think it's just going to be me. It's only for a couple of hours. It's not an all day event. But yeah, that's more of an announcement. Josie and I did it. It was either earlier this year or last year. I can't remember. Actually, it probably was this year because I think she just sometime in life, Josie and I attended this event, and it was a good one. Um, I would say the majority of the folks who attend this specific event will probably be our clientele versus other, like, I mean, you know what I'm talking about, like versus other ones. This one is pretty much targeted for our clientele, which we all know our clientele can be anybody. You can't look at a person and know, but you guys know what I mean. So that's happening. If you get it to me by the
Who is the outreach to? Is it all of Mercy Housing's participants, which include people living with HIV and
Yes,
others?
absolutely, absolutely. That's their target for this one. Um, yeah. So if you get me what you need me to have by like the top of the week, I'll take care of it. It's only a few hours I'll be there, but I will make sure I'll represent our project at that table.
That's awesome. That seems like a really great thing. I just want to encourage that if anyone stops long enough to hear about this initiative and consider it, I'd encourage them to understand it as being a new project that's intended to connect people living with HIV in the greater Hartford area with information about the broadest range of options that they could
I like that.
consider related to employment, and that they can meet one-on-one with Tamira to learn about and be connected with any and all of the various resources around the area that we are organizing and bringing together to be brought to benefit, be available to benefit folks.
Hmm.
So essentially, the meeting with Tamara can open the treasure box that
Great.
may include stuff that folks may not find their way to otherwise, and our hope is to ensure that everybody gets any access to anything and everything that they may be interested in and benefit from related to considering and pursuing employment and education.
I dig it. Now we will absolutely communicate that. Also, or additionally, I'm taking names for whomever wants to give it. I'll have the iPad and contact information. So when we start having these outreach events or the trainings and all of those things, folks will be able to essentially get the information. So we're not looking for people to come. We already have that database. Obviously, everybody there is not going to give me a name and an email address, but if they have somebody's email address, they're like, "Oh, I don't have one. I have my case managers. I'll take that." Um, it's
Cool.
not on the agenda, but I just thought about this. Tomorrow, I'm attending Access Health's resource fair. Now that's the long one. That's the all day one. I'm being in Waterbury all day from like 9 to 4 in Waterbury, Connecticut. That's more of a resource fair than anything else. So if folks have things that's related to this project, I can print that today and bring it with me tomorrow. I would have mentioned this before, but it snuck up on me. It's tomorrow. But I would actually say tomorrow is more of a resource fair over a job fair than anything else. So, mark that verbiage that you just gave me. I'll use tomorrow. I think that's perfect. And although it's in Waterbury, Access Health is Connecticut wide, like they're the entire state. So I don't feel like we would lose anything just being out in Waterbury. I still think folks will know it's Greater Hartford. I'm not really too worried about that piece of it. But all in all, everybody on this call knows 'tis the season. This is when the fairs come, the resource fairs. We try to get everything that we're doing in before the holiday season starts. And yeah, so if you have it, send it over and I will take care of the rest.
Awesome.
Perfect, perfect. So yeah, I'll keep you guys posted, and we'll include this in our pictures too. This is all a part of the HOPWA Workforce Project, so I'll grab some stuff there too. Um, Next, outreach updates. Tamara's going to do this part, but we already did it. This was just an update saying, ready to go. Here is the intake form. We can start sending names to her now. Meg is on the call, Erica, and we can get it going right now. That was going to be the update. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay, yeah, more of a statement. Um, okay, Mark, it is your turn. So, our not the last meeting because I wasn't there, but the meeting before that, we were all talking about Mark's list of training topics that we proposed earlier this year. I have uploaded it into the Google Drive, but I also have it right here. So Mark, I'll give you the floor. We can just have an open discussion. We got about 20 some odd minutes. We might not take the whole time, but I just wanted to show you all, if I can change the form, um, what Mark was talking about.
Hey, Brendan, would
Yes,
it be
sir.
so I was about to share the same exact form, and
Oh,
if
oh,
I
you
could
got
if
it.
I could share it, I can sort of use it almost like slides and move around.
Listen, that is even better. Let me make you co-host, and then you're good to go. I'm acting like today's my first day with technology. I don't know what's going on. Let me see.
No one would believe that.
All right, my friend, it's all you.
Am I showing this webinar training curricula?
You are.
Um, so, you know, we've done a couple of webinars already that were specifically for HIV service providers. And I think they both went well. And a question may be if either or both would be good to plan a repeat of? And if so, how soon, when, the timing? Um, my perception is that virtual training can be effective for HIV service providers, but our training activity, our training event activity for people living with HIV probably needs to be in person. And I'm be curious to just hear folks' thoughts, if that's accurate or there's possibly other ways to think about it. We have a set of 7 webinars that we have been sort of honing for that we developed specifically for New York State, that we believe are valuable for considering adapting specifically for the greater Hartford area. There's a couple of them that has been done already. And there's others that I believe could be really good. I think the questions that would be great to discuss within this group are the potential value of webinars for HIV service providers. If there are any webinars that may be meaningful, useful to do, specifically designed for people living with HIV in Greater Hartford, if it's possibly a worthy idea to experiment to see if people will come, if there's a way to effectively promote it and have some folks, a decent number of folks participate, that's something that's definitely doable. Also to consider these topics, these areas of focus as components of in-person events. And I think if I'm understanding correctly, we can consider in-person events, either full day, half day, for people living with HIV, as well as events full day, half day, part day for HIV service providers. And my thought is that these training events, these activities are intended to help advance awareness, consideration of the project, of the resources, of considering the idea of employment, of better understanding options available, better understanding resources and partners and allies and strategies, and the supports that can be available. The I don't know if folks have actually already had a chance to look this over. I don't think this was shared with everybody. I think earlier in the year it was shared with maybe a subset of this group. So I will just give a very quick overview of the 7 topic areas that are available, and be very clear that these were initially developed for HIV service providers. And there are some of them that Sylvester and I have talked about as being very either already applicable or very easy to adapt to be accessible and applicable for an audience of people living with HIV. We've already presented what to know working while receiving public benefits. I think that for a large percentage of people living with HIV that we would be reaching out to in the greater Hartford area, there's one or more public benefits program that they currently participate in. We're better understanding exactly how it works. If you are changing your income through work, and any impacts on your enrollment in that program. I think that that's important information. I think historically that's not been easy information for folks to get. It's really not been, and the truth is that that's the case for HIV service providers. I think only a small number of HIV service providers would have even had the chance to very well understand exactly what happens with SSI, with SSDI, with Medicaid, with Medicare, with HOPWA, with any of the major public benefits programs that people rely on to potentially even be well enough and stable enough to consider employment. What would happen if they work? I feel like that's a core training myself, and feel like it was well. It seemed like to me that I think we got good evaluations. It seemed well received by the folks that participated when we did it in March. So a question would be if and when we repeat it um, in the coming months. I don't know if there's a sense that everyone who needed it and would be interested and benefit from it came in March, and it would not be helpful to do it again. I would suspect that there are people who didn't come who could benefit and be interested in it, and potentially some folks who came who might like to repeat it, because that's information that Sylvester and I often talk about ourselves having needed to be times to really absorb very deeply.
Is this a
Um,
tool that could just be sort of online, that as new folks come in, they could just access it? Because I agree with you. I think this is a really, really important one where there's a lot of misperceptions and one of the big issues that I see in my HOPWA program is folks will get a job, their rent goes up, and then they quit the job and they don't realize they're really making more and the whole thing. So they just get kind of confused. So it'd be cool if this one was like just permanently maybe on a website where people could always just, because there's always turnover with
mhm.
staff.
So think this is one that can it can be beneficial to have small groups participate and have access to it more regularly so that people can come in with questions. There can be discussion. Um, and so I don't know what the pressures may be for the numbers of people who need to be attending to make these um, appropriate to deliver. But if it was available more regularly, I think that that would be a value. Um,
Yeah.
I see Danielle's hand up.
Yeah. You kind of just touched on what I was sitting here thinking when you said small groups. I think one of the things that happened at the last one, again, it was more providers than there were actually people living with HIV who needed the service. I think we need to address that so that we get it. We're not preaching to the choir, or it's not provider heavy, that it's actually with the people. And the smaller groups might be the way to do it. We talked about taking the flyer around to the psychosocial support groups. We could maybe set something up where agencies can get customized trainings, because some of the things that you have on the list, I might not, our women, and youth that we serve need them of the session on disability, that kind of be able to customize agencies actually need, and agency level. I bought a kid, this felt so good after I had to go pick this child up, because that's where they were experiencing homelessness and stuff like that. So, well, that's, and and she, well, I never thought that I would talk to people that much. He really, of you, Mark, and you, Sylvester, because you reached out directly to her. And she's a youth, newly transitioning and stuff like that. So it was great for her, but it would have been nice to have something that's more accessible to the people throughout our TGA. For instance, in Manchester, those group of people should not have to try to figure out how to get to Hartford, even if we're saying we're covering transportation, you know what I mean? And even for the folk that we serve here, I would like to see something like that for our agency, the people that we serve, our psychosocial support group, and we, put it out to everybody, have some food and be able to customize what we feel through, the feedback we get from our families that we serve, what would benefit them at one of these trainings. So to really try to customize it and hone it more into focusing on actual people who need the services. But that was a great start. Don't get me wrong, but it needs to be a little more customized to reach the people we're trying to reach. If
I
y'all
think that
follow what I'm
that's
saying.
I do, and it was clear. So I think we had success in doing virtual training for HIV service providers, success with an in-person event for HIV service providers, although I think even that could have been better attended. But I think when we tried to do an event that was actually intended for people living with HIV, there actually weren't many people living with HIV there. There was more HIV service providers that showed up, or as many, than there were people living with HIV. So I think that I was thinking that was showing us that we needed to do it in a different way to actually effectively reach people. And so I wondered if there's possibly a list of places to go where you actually meet people where they are and where they're interested in being and connecting with a program, and sort of strategize sort of a local tour and plan events based on where they will actually be meaningful for folks, and folks will participate. Pastor Andre.
Yeah, it's two things. One, essentially the rounds that I'm taking to present a flyer could be a very similar route that you would be able to take to go to the individual groups that actually have it. And I don't mind participating in that as well. The other thing is the Bureau of Rehabilitative Services provides a really good workshop or discussion when it comes to people living with HIV and working and earnings public benefits at the same time. They are, I've always, when people struggling, they're on whatever fixed, and they have some capacity to work, and they're not sure. What can I do? How far can I go? Will they take my money? And these folks, that their job is to find employment for people that have that kind of an issue. And so they have access to all of that information. So they would be a great tool to use for that as well. And then they may even already have standardized formats for those things.
They are actually available to work one-on-one with people. BRS actually has the contract for the state of Connecticut for the National Work Incentives Planning and Assistance Program, WIPA program, and that funds certified benefit specialists whose job it is to stay up to date and informed about what they call the work incentive policies of SSI, SSDI, Medicaid, Medicare, and typically they will have at least some knowledge about other programs. And I would be interested in ensuring that they're knowledgeable about HOPWA, that they're knowledgeable about I'm forgetting the name in Connecticut of the ADAP program, the AIDS Drug Assistance Program. Yes, which becomes essential to also be aware of in making any kind of plans and decisions. They are an important component of what I would define as the Hartford Employment Services Network on an ongoing basis. They are essential for folks who are considering their options. They're important for folks who are considering a job offer. They're important for folks who are working and need help in managing any potential changes or responsibilities for reporting when they are working. And that's what they're funded to provide, individualized help in that way. I'm really intrigued, and Brendan, I don't know if I'm going beyond the scope of what you were hoping for in today's discussion, but I'm really intrigued by the idea of defining the locations for meetings that bring information and support and opportunities for questions and discussion to people living with HIV. If it's possible to actually create a list of whatever number of best likely locations to meet with groups that may benefit from having a chance to hear information, consider options, and get exposed to what this initiative is doing and what they could take advantage of, to include people who are ready to work, to include people who are thinking maybe they'll be going to work at some time in the future, and to include people who are not at all sure and are at an earlier stage in considering any kind of decision making about any change.
I think that's a good idea. Um, you know, to come up with these titles, which is an amazing thing, we also need to make sure that we have the people to fill the rooms and it's the right audience and all of these things that we've been talking about for quite some time. So I think that we should, like I said in the chat, I'll email this to everybody. It's a email that Mark sent earlier this year, but I was able to find it this morning, and I'm just going to email it out to the group when I send these minutes. Take a look, take your time with it. If you have any idea or for a venue, or oh, we could probably do this here, or maybe if we do it this way, this one would be better for virtual, this one would be better for in person. We can bring it back to the table, and I'll put it on the agenda for the 29th meeting. It doesn't need to be a long item, but I'll put it on there so we can kind of check in and touch base. Because if we can at least, I don't know what we plan to do with the holiday season, if we're just going to wait till the new year, but if we can start to develop some sort of action plan, I think that will work out for us. Oh, go ahead, Bas.
Yeah, Brendan, I was thinking, since I'm already going to be going through that circuit, I can easily bring some information
Even
about
better.
this when I go, because that's what it's about.
Yeah, I'll print the stuff
Housing
for
and
you.
employment. So I can bring the information when I go and find out, look, are you interested in, and I can go through the list of the various trainings that you have, or groups that you have available. You
Work
know,
for us. I like it.
you know what?
Perfect. How many people? How many HOPWA
My
programs?
my gut tells me that those sort of didactic training topics are potentially most meaningful for HIV service providers. So a question for us is, do we think that there's a potential benefit in engaging more HIV service providers or HOPWA service providers in this initiative? If having these events, these training events virtually may be helpful, and to include in them Chimera and a part of the training be focused on what's available, how it works, and how they can refer people for no matter what the topic is. And then in terms of direct events specifically for people living with HIV, I'm wondering if it could potentially be an idea Lester and I to come to Hartford, maybe to be there for a couple of days and just plan a
Back to
tour
back.
and
Yeah.
see if we can do a series across a couple of days where we may in a couple of days, but maybe sort of prioritize a, some of them that could be schedulable within a couple of days.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not the
December actually, and I have not checked with Sylvester about this, but at least for me, Sylvester December would work for planning some of those. And I would also recommend that we plan at least one virtual training event for HIV service providers before either in November or in December to include one of these topics, as well as an overview of the project and how people can refer people.
sure, absolutely. Okay, I like it. Actually, we did our kickoff last December, so that actually kind of falls in line. We did the hybrid one. Um, okay. Well, we have about 10 minutes left. That was essentially the last piece of today's agenda. Do does anybody have anything they'd like to add before we wrap? Any questions? If you can't think of it right now, feel free to email us. That's fine.
I have one, but I want to give other folks a chance to talk first.
Go ahead, Raj. Yep, you're good.
All right, just to throw this in, I think you're right. Most of the meetings that are on that list, or the groups or presentations on that list, would likely be provider beneficial. And my inclination would be, they have case management presentations all the time, and that would be an optimal place to actually do some of those things. And the other thought for me is, some, particularly the one dealing with issues connected with employment, is going to be directly beneficial to people living with HIV. So this is a mixture. You have some of those sessions that would be good, for one specific group. You have others that would be good for both. So it's just something to think about.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Thank you. Okay, Mark, go ahead.
I was doing, I was looking into some of the data for the Hartford area in AIDS View. AIDS View is a website that reports HIV data and can give a snapshot at the national level, at state levels, at county levels, and at city levels. And I hadn't realized that the percentage of people living with HIV in Hartford is so high among the Latinx community. I think it was something like 36 or 38% of the population of people currently living with HIV in Hartford are Latinx. And so it made me wonder if it wouldn't be smart for this group to think about whether there's additional people we do to participate from that community, um, including people living with HIV from the Latinx community, if that might be something that would be smart to do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see the downfall. I know. Let me think. I know I'm going to say this wrong, but I know there's a domestic violence walk happening soon, and that is specifically in the Latinx community. I think it's from one point to another. I'll get the actual name and I'll email you all. But I say that to say, um, listen, if there's an opportunity to include all communities, we should absolutely do that. Data is not everything, but data does matter, right? So I think that that's something we can reach out to. I don't mind doing it. I can do that today, actually. And actually, at the top of my head, I think one of the Latinx groups are going to be there tomorrow at the resource fair. So I'm just going to go talk to them and kind of cut out the middleman and report back to the group.
Yeah, that's why I brought up the topic of people who are necessarily working with the social security number, that's real information for the Latinx community, as well as other because we have in Hartford, we're a melting pot. We have like a large immigrant population. We have the West Indian population, which has historically been one of those populations as well, as people coming in and not really leaving, but working hard. You know what I mean? Starting cleaning businesses and things like that. And and to not know that you can actually pay and file taxes is really big information, and it's a myth to think that you can't. So that type of information is important to the Latinx community. I mean, there's the International Institute, which has been one of the cornerstone agencies. I've used them for as long as I've been in this business, for like 30 years. They started off as a Catholic charities for refugees, and many of those refugees became experts in immigration. So we use them a lot. And maybe to reach out to the International Institute, tell them who we're trying to work with, and people impacted by HIV necessarily have social security numbers, and just to come in and give some little on what that looks like, how that might impact them if they do ever want to get their immigration status to be navigated, how that might help, as opposed to the myth that it hinders. So I mean, that is like real information for people who don't regularly work, documented, and to be able to offer that type of information to that population is, like, who's doing that? You know what I'm saying?
The hard
So,
numbers.
so it would be great to offer it to our folk living with HIV who
We could do that.
who aren't documented. I mean, we've figured a way to make sure they get housing,
Right.
thankfully through ACT, and and Ryan White, you don't have to be documented, and that information is known. We can't get them long-term affordable housing,
Right.
but we can help them fill in the gaps. So we're doing it with housing. Let's do this with employment as well, and have a component that's really catered to that, because that would be some really good information to offer to our Spanish group, where they're good majority are monolingual. That information will make them feel comfortable to know that they can provide for their families and not have to hide so hard. Because I've been trying to hide them too. I'm trying to help them hide. So when I found that information out, I was like, what? And so in Consuelo, like I said, we do have staff who's very knowledgeable on it. So she, I could talk to her, but I think to have somebody from the International Institute would probably be the best way to go.
Okay. Reach out.
The International Institute.
Yes, and they have an office now in Stanford, and they have an office here in Hartford, where the Hispanic Health Council is. And I'm like, we have to go to Stanford if we have women who are experiencing domestic violence, who are not necessarily quote unquote documented. They navigate them to getting their workers permit, and we've seen some really great success stories of women that have started their own businesses, cleaning businesses, and got straightened out with their ability to have documentation for working, and they've been taxpayers. So yeah.
Okay. Well, look at that.
Awesome. Thank you again.
Good information. I'm gonna